right, good morning, Earthlings. How you doing, my friends? How you doing today? Hope you had a good day yesterday. I hope you have a good day today. Let's see what we're dealing with. This is our cosmic weather for today. Solar wind, 341.8 kilometers per second. Planetary K index, all right, we're at a 0. 24-hour max is a 1. All right, here's a couple new corona holes starting to make themselves available. Tells us that we should see some solar wind hitting the planet around the 4th to the 6th of February due to these holes. So we'll see the progression, see if we see our triangle or any other geometric shape showing up there. And we really don't have much of a chance of any kind of flares at all, or geomagnetic storm activity is about the same. So that's the energy we're dealing with from space. We do have notice here of a bushy filament of magnetism snaking over the sun's northeastern limb. So that's something we'll keep an eye on. Alright, then we go to our astrology for today, and we see that right here, 30th, we are just like yesterday. Just like yesterday, so we have the Virgo moon and the Aquarius sun. So we have the conscious mind, the sun, would be the air, and the unconscious, earth. Air and earth, these are the two elements we're working with today. So just think about how air and earth work together. You can have the earth, and the wind can blow nice over the earth, and nice gentle breeze, and everything could be in sync, or the wind could blow really hard and blow the earth apart. So there's lots of different ways these elements can work together. So we all work with them. Just something to keep in mind. Our moon phase is we're 88% full, making our way back down to that new moon again. And on the Mayan Oracle, all right, we're at that cosmic day. Today's the day we jump. 13 tones are jumping days. And the jumping is always from the end of one wave spell of 13 days to the beginning of another wave spell of 13 days. So we are on the 13th day, the last day of this theme, and the theme is always whatever the first one is. So the theme is the eagle. The eagle's has been vision. So we've gone 13 days along this path of vision, and today we're at the hand. The hand is about accomplishment, and we're at that day where we're going to now jump off with what we've done with our vision, and we're going to take a new way of make it a progression. We're going to move that forward, see what we can accomplish with it today. Everything always progresses according to these 13 tones, 13 cycles. The moon goes through 13 cycles in the course of the year. That's where this number 13 comes from. So it's synchronicity with nature. So for today, we're at the hand. So the hand's all about accomplishment. But also, just keep in mind, the hand can be used to kill as well as to create. So it depends upon our free will of how we're going to use our hand. And it just so happens that here, as our like-minded energy today, is the human, which is all about free will. So we've got that free will choice of what we're going to do today, how we're going to make use of our energy. And our challenge for today, right here, is about synchronicity and navigation. It's the card of the earth. And so we're challenged to pay attention to the synchronicities of today. Pay attention to those things. So, and then we have our hidden power, which is the wizard, which is all about timelessness, and of course the monkey about playfulness. So I always think 13 days are important days. They're important days because we're taking the accumulation of all of those last 12 days of lessons, and we're moving them forward. So it's a big responsibility, that jumping off. It's called the cosmic day. The phrase for today is I endure in order to know transcending healing. I seal the store of accomplishment with the cosmic tone of presence. I am guided by the power of magic. And on the Gregorian calendar, it is the 30th of January 2013. All right, so there you have it. That's the weather we're dealing with. It's always good to know as we go into the world what we're dealing with, because you ever have those times where at the end of the day You sit down and you recount what happened over the course of the day, and you think, if only I had known in advance some of these things I was going to be dealing with, I would have dealt with them differently. Well, this is that opportunity. That's what this is all about. Knowing in advance what is going on out there with the weather. And it's just really kind of looking at the weather just like a regular weather report. That's it. Okay, so today I'm going to turn our attention now to consciousness. And this is a quantum physicist, actually a professor, Amit Goswami, and was a former professor of physics from the University of Oregon, and he's talking all about quantum physics and consciousness. This is the first of 3 parts, but I thought this would be a very interesting piece for you to hear, and good information about how all of this ties together, science and spirituality, and that's cool. So here we go. All right, here we go. This is Amit Goswami.
The meaning of quantum physics is really in terms of giving us a new worldview that shows clearly how consciousness can be and is the ground of our being. In other words, quantum physics enables us to see directly that we can make sense of the world only if we base the world on consciousness. World is made of consciousness. World is consciousness. Consciousness is the ground of being. Quantum physics makes this as clear as daylight.
How is quantum physics clear as day?
Because quantum physics shows you clearly that science, quantum mathematics, which is, in our belief, the most fundamental mathematics, most accurate mathematical description of nature that we have discovered. This mathematics shows us clearly that the movement of objects are describable only in terms of possibilities, not the actual events that happens in our experience. Quantum physics calculates only possibilities. But if we accept this, then the question immediately comes, what chooses among these possibilities to bring the actual event of experience? So we directly, immediately see that consciousness must be involved. The observer cannot be ignored. Observer is part of the description of the world, but the observer is not included in quantum physics. We can only describe the objects, not the subject. So we get the idea that the subject must be more fundamental than the objects. Consciousness is more fundamental. Consciousness must be the ground of being, of which objects are part, but not all of it. And these objects then can be described as waves of possibility, and quantum physics succeeds in giving this description very accurately and gives probabilities so that we can do science on the basis of it whenever there is a large number of objects and large number of events. But when you speak of individual objects and individual events, then this very intriguing choice, the word choice by consciousness, out of these possible events, the actual event of experience comes in. And so, for the first time, science encounters free will. Consciousness is free because there is no mathematical description of the subject in our science. Only objects can be described mathematically, and only to the extent that there are possibilities. The question still remains paramount: who is the chooser? And when we see that, then we see that the chooser is free. There is freedom of choice. And of that freedom of choice comes our actual experience. Those are the discontinuous experiences that I was telling you about. Now, of course, we get conditioned, and then a certain apparent continuity reigns. And that's what misleads us. That's what confuses us.
The conditioning confuses us.
Conditioning brings up an apparent continuity in our experience.
So how does that translate the observer and consciousness. How does in quantum physics and the understanding of how the world works, how does that translate down to me?
That's of course is the ultimately the issue. What does all this observer or collapse of possibility wave, as the physicist would say, into an actual event of experience? From that, how do we get to me? Now that me, as I said, is a result of a lot of conditioning. So although ideally in every experience we get a whole bunch of possible responses, but in what happens because of our memory, quantum measurement, every observation can be looked upon as a quantum measurement. This quantum measurement produces brain memory. These brain memories are activated every time we encounter an experience again. A repeated stimulus will always elicit not only the original impression, but also this repetition of memory impressions. And it is this working of the memory, I sometimes put it this way: we always perceive something after reflection in the mirror of memory. It is this reflection in the mirror of memory that gives us that sense of I-ness, who I am, namely a pattern of habits, a pattern of memories, a pattern of past, and that is where I enter the picture. All of our meanings of who I am come from this reflection of the mirror of memory. So we miss the quantum discontinuity. And because we miss it, that's why we ask, well, but that is not me. Because quantum is talking about discontinuous quantum leaps, possibilities and probabilities, free will. But we find in our ordinary me, all these things are quite elusive. The illusion will be cleared up only when we are prepared to work a little. We have to work our way back to this freedom, to this consciousness as the holder of the freedom of choice. If we work our way back, then this question that you asked, how does it relate to me, will become clearer and clearer.
So I'm wondering, like, which came first, the chicken or the egg? You know, then did consciousness come first, or where did consciousness come from? I don't even know if you answered that question. But
the consciousness is the ground of being, therefore it is the one and the original. The chicken and the egg question, however, is very important. For example, how does this one consciousness become a subject-object split experience? There, when we analyze it fully, and here I must mention Doug Hofstadter's book, Gödel, Escher, Bach, where there's a good analysis of this question. And we find indeed that how consciousness becomes split into a subject of experience and an object, which is subject experiences, how this split occurs. This has to do with what we call a chicken and egg kind of hierarchy, which technically Hofstadter calls tangled hierarchy. This hierarchical tangle is inherently present in a quantum measurement. Quantum measurement is not a simple hierarchical process. Instead, it's a tangled hierarchical process involving the object, involving the brain, involving how we experience the world. So because the quantum measurement involving the brain is tangled hierarchical, this chicken and the egg kind of, chicken or the egg which came first kind of hierarchy, we cannot really decide it. There is no decision. They both are as important in the hierarchy. When we realize that, then we can understand how our self-reference arises. This subject-object split arises from a quantum measurement. It's a little bit like the picture of drawing hands by M.C. Escher. You might have seen it. The left hand draws the right and the right hand draws the left. But who is really drawing them?
This is the UFO News. Joshua Poet.
All right, Dirk, thank you very much. Today I have 4 stories, so let's get to it. Story number 1, this comes to us from Indiana. Says that an Indiana woman reveals family secret. A UFO landed with tiny aliens. How about that? She goes on to say this is a very strange story, but interestingly, nonetheless. So I thought I should share it to see if anybody else could do anything with it. I have a videotape of my great-grandma from when I was a kid. She was sitting around with her sisters talking about old stories when they were kids. One sister started talking about her story. My great-grandpa made a promise to never talk about. But since she was over 90 years old, she didn't think it mattered anymore. She was frustrated, just still talking about it. The best we can tell, this event took place in Logansport, Indiana area in approximately 1890 or so. Maybe earlier, maybe later. But my great-aunt was taking food to her father and grandfather working in the fields all day, as she did every day. And she would take a horse and cart out where they were working, have lunch, and come back home. Well, on this particular day, she could not find her father or grandfather. She then heard them yelling at her to get inside the woods nearby and hide. She complied, and that's when they began telling her that they had been watching some sort of flying machine that didn't make any sort of noise around the field. They supposedly watched little people get out of the craft and take pieces of corn and soil, and then they flew away. The uncle and the father had been hiding in the woods for some time, afraid to see. Pretty interesting story. There's a video along with it here. See, the video itself is, well, it's a short video here. Let me go ahead and play this. All right, here we go.
Popping on and telling me all that stuff. I didn't think I'd ever need to know about it.
But he told me one thing. I wasn't supposed to repeat it all my life, and I didn't until the other night. I told it to a friend of hers. I don't know what'll happen to me because I done it. He forbid me to about this.
He'll forgive you.
He come running in the back door. He was plowing way over there in the field, about 3 miles away. I was sick that day, and Mom said I couldn't take his dinner to me. I was terrible sick. She said, you can't go. Frank, she said, you're going to have to take the dinner. So she packed his lunch. So he come running in the back door, just out of breath. He said, Josephine, get out in front. I want to show you something. And here come this big brown flying saucer going around and around. And he told me all about it. Told me how they was dressed, how they was. He said, you should have been there. You could have seen it. And he said, I forbid you to tell Catherine, George, your mother, I don't want you to ever repeat this tale. Because they'll make fun of us. You make fun of me. He said, I've seen it. It must have landed over there.
I've heard of the flying saucers.
It was. He said, we live in a gravel pit. And I want you to go real slow.
We always call it
And
the
that
gravel
thing was
pit.
going around and around. And I must have been about 10 years old. And he said, don't you ever repeat this to anybody. And I told it the other night to her friend. He forbid me to repeat it to anybody. I never did. I kept it.
Well, a lot of people won't believe it.
He said, I said, how are they dressed, Dad? And he says, they're not dressed, but he says, you should have been there. You missed a lot. And then he says, now I'll go back. He said, I'm resting a while. He said, now I got to go back. I tied the mules to a fence post. And he said, I hope they're there. He said, you should have been there. You should have brought my dinner. You've seen this. I said, maybe I'd have got on with him. He said, well, they might have took you. That's what my doctor says. I'm not real. What am I? Everybody, he tells me, he says, I can't leave you.
Now these are the, this was Will, and this is all the children that he had. So there were 9 of them, I think.
9. Well, they had 12. My dad said that.
All right, so that is first story. Moving from there. This was over Fairfax, Virginia. This took place on the 17th. They say a mothership was filmed over Fairfax County. There we go. Object in question. Alright, we've seen this plenty of times. There's not really any better view of this. Okay. Very interesting indeed. All right, moving right along. Next here we go up to the moon, or the moon, and this is another one of the pictures. And you know how we keep seeing pictures pop up of objects on the moon and objects on Mars that aren't supposed to be there? Well, guess what? Here's another one. This is right there. Looking at an old Apollo photo, and I came across this one that looks like a definite structure, right? Certainly doesn't look like anything that's artificial. Definitely not. All right. And this is further up, further away view of where it is. So says the hacker Gary McKinnon said in an interview that he hacked into U.S. military computers and saw first-hand documents that stated that the U.S. military has off-world officers stationed on an alien base. And since the moon is the closest celestial body, it has to be there. So, all right. And one more piece today. This is a documentary of, it's called Men in Black, but it's not the Men in Black with, you know, the characters here in the United States. This is Medvedev's. I have a hard time pronouncing his name. Medvedev's. There we go. It's probably not right either, but you know who I mean. Anyway, let me play a portion of this. It's 47 minutes total, and you can get a little sample. Here we go.
«1946 год. Западная Украина. Карпаты. В центре горного массива найден ребенок. Беспризорнику на вид около 7 лет. Он не может назвать ни имя, ни домашний адрес. Обычное дело для послевоенного времени. Но в детском доме у мальчика обнаружили странности. Воспитанники шепотом докладывали, что во сне его тело приподнимается и парит в воздухе над кроватью. Он разговаривает с деревьями и птицами и может воскресить мертвое животное. Удивительный мальчик рассказывает о будущем. Он предрекает через 16 лет полет первого человека на орбиту, русского, по имени Юрий.
All right, so very interesting piece. So check out the full documentary, and I think you'll find it interesting indeed. All right, that's it for our UFO news. Stay tuned. I'll be right back.
What if our government was responsible for some of the greatest crimes against this nation? Would you really want to know? These are big questions, but these questions deserve answers. It's time to demand the truth.
People should not be afraid of their governments. Governments should be afraid.
Okay. All right, here is one of these stories that shows the government is involved in a false flag event Hacked emails reveal Washington approved plan to stage chemical weapons attack in Syria. Now we hear many, many times about false flags here in the United States. Here's a false flag in another country. Alleged hacker emails from defense contractor Britam reveal a plan approved by Washington and funded by Qatar to stage a chemical weapons attack in Syria and blame it on the Assad regime, fulfilling what the Obama administration has made clear is a red line that would mandate U.S. military intervention. The leaked emails obtained by a hacker in Malaysia feature an exchange between Britam's defense business development director David Goulding and company's founder Phil Dowdy. Goes on to say, we've got a new offer. It's about Syria again. Qataris propose an attractive deal and swear that the idea is approved by Washington. We'll have to deliver a CW to Homs, a Soviet origin G shell from Libya, similar to those that Assad should have. They want us to deploy our Ukrainian personnel that should speak Russian and make a video record. Finally, I don't think it's a good idea, but the sums proposed are enormous. Your opinion. Kind regards, David. The fact that the plan involves delivering a CW chemical weapon that is similar to those Assad should have clearly suggested that the idea is to stage a false flag chemical weapons attack that could be blamed on Assad by the Gulf states like Qatar and the NATO powers. So the point of this is they're doing a false flag. So I wonder what kind of press it's going to get over here or over there. You know, a false flag is a false flag. Doesn't matter what country it's in. It's just another way of getting into war. That's what they're about. It's lying to get into war. And when you're in war, people say all is fair, right? So they do lie. So it's not just here in this country. It's everywhere. Okay, so we now have these new gun laws, all the executive orders that Obama has signed into play. And here is a piece, a little review on some of the sheriffs who are saying no. This is Matt Larson 10. Haven't heard from him in a while. Here we go.
Hey, welcome back everyone. I am Matt Larson, and if you want to fight gun control, and if you want to show the federal government that they don't control us, that they are not our masters, you need to get on board with your local sheriff and ask them the question: are you going to enforce federal laws that take away my Second Amendment? And if they say no, we are not going to go on board with that, get them to make a public statement about it. Let these people know in your county that, you know what, you need to support your sheriff. And if you do have a sheriff that's out there that says, and he seems like he's on the fence on it, remind him who he swore an oath to defend. He swore an oath to defend the Constitution, which protects the people from the government. The Constitution isn't restrictions on the people, it's restrictions on the government. And he needs to tell the government that no, the federal government, you do not have the power to take away the people in my county, and in reality the nation's, but particularly in his county, you do not have the ability to take away their Second Amendment. He is in charge of protecting your Second Amendment and making sure that the feds do not step over their grounds and take away your rights. And so far, there are over 226 sheriffs that have stepped up to the plate and are fighting against increased gun control. Now, there are roughly 3,100 some odd counties, so we're not to that 10% yet, but the more I think we get our sheriffs to kind of speak out a little bit more and talk about how they're not going to enforce federal laws if they are passed, on gun control and any other unconstitutional laws, they will not be enforced. I believe that more sheriffs will kind of step up to the plate and say the same thing, and hopefully realize that they did swear an oath to the Constitution to defend it and to protect the American people, not just in their counties, but nationwide. They need to defend their rights to the Constitution. So I hope that you guys, if you haven't heard from your sheriff yet, go to your local sheriff. Be very nice, be civil, speak with him. Don't go in there and be like, you need to do this. You know what? People are a lot more open if you just go in there and talk with them. Don't run in like a wild pack of apes. Now, if he or she does not say that I'm going to support and uphold my oath to the Constitution, don't go and threaten him, but definitely remind him that he did swear an oath to the Constitution. And we're not going to allow him to do this. Now, whether you vote him out in the upcoming elections or you try to remove him just for him breaching his oath to the Constitution, one way or the other, we have to make our point. So I'm going to put the list down below in the description. Check it out. It has the full list. It has been updated a few times also, and I believe they will continue to update the list of sheriffs that have signed on to saying no to stricter gun laws. But for now, I ask that you guys please thumbs up this video, share it with friends and family. If you're new to my videos, make sure you click that subscribe button so you can stay up to date on all the current political news. As always, I'm Matt Larson. Go, Ron Paul. Peace.
All right, very good. So let's talk about psychology and sociology for a moment. Psychology is the study of the mind, and it's the study of how we are affected by the thoughts of our mind, whereas sociology is the study of how groups of minds work together, right? So how they interact socially. Well, for a long time, it has been studied by mind control experts in Germany and in Russia and in the United States, ways in which to play upon the psychological power points within each individual. They know how to push people's buttons. And because of that, society moves around many ways according to the way that those who are pushing the buttons want it to go. And we need to pay attention to that because we get caught up sometimes in looking at the running around that's going on, and we need to step back from that and look at the psychology or the sociology behind that, because that is something that we can change. The very first video was all about consciousness, that consciousness is something that is part of life, and we can affect life with our consciousness by how we think about things. Well, consciousness and psychology, they're tied together. Sociology, they're all tied together. So we need to get a hold of our own personal consciousness, our own individual consciousness, so we can work through this system more efficiently. Like, think for ourselves. The better we can think for ourselves, because if we don't, someone else is going to be thinking for us. Now, here's the reason I'm saying all of these things. This is an article, says toy gun prompts Bronx school lockdown. What we have here is a situation that someone said there was a gun in the school, and it ended up to be only a Nerf gun that fires foam bullets. Now, I know that there's a lot of fear out in the world about what just happened, but to be so on edge that a Nerf gun gets them to lock down a school, that seems a bit drastic. And it's because fears have been put onto society. The psychological mindset of humans has been affected in such a way that sociologically they are acting fearful because they've been told to act fearful. And we can see examples of this in many different places. Fear only breeds more fear. So we have to understand that is going on. Now, here's another article which ties into this as well that we need to be aware of, because cycles also repeat. And there are cycles in our consciousness, cycles in psychological cycles and sociological cycles. Well, Germany marks 80th anniversary of Hitler's rise. On the 80th anniversary of Adolf Hitler's rise to power, Chancellor Angela Merkel urged Germans to always fight for their principles and not to fall into the complacency that enabled the Nazi dictator to seize control. Speaking Wednesday at the opening of a new exhibit at the Topography of Terror memorial documenting Hitler's election, Merkel noted that German academics and students at the time happily joined the Nazis only a few months later in burning books deemed subversive. The rise of the Nazis was made possible because the elite of the German society worked with them, but also, above else, because most in Germany, at least, tolerated that rise, Merkel said. So, these are very important things to remember, because the psychology and the cycles and the sociology that is out in the world shows that there is something that happened that is still going on because we haven't healed ourselves of that mistake yet. Now, I'm not saying the mistake of, well, a couple different things. Apathy. That in this situation, as she says right here, that above all else, because most in Germany tolerated it. Okay, right now, people are tolerating what's going on with the governments of the world. We're tolerating what's going on with Obama. We're tolerating the way Congress is behaving, even though we know it's wrong, even though we know it's unconstitutional and traitorous activity that are coming from our leaders here in this country. We're tolerating it. That's not good. That's what she said happened there. Okay? So we need to look here, the complacency. She's telling the Germans, don't get complacent. Americans have become very complacent. We've got a problem with that, and because of all this complacency, all of these restrictions have popped up. Just something to point out, because sociologically and psychologically, humans are conditioned to move according to the way the sheep herders want them to move. And so it's time for you to really be more open to that if you aren't already. And if you are, awesome, just keep sharing with others then, because that's what we need to do. Okay? So let's move on from there. Another way that the mind is influenced, and this is a big way, very big way. We have this article here. Major Hollywood talent agency throws a lewd mind control themed party at Sundance Festival. We all know the term that's out there, monkey see, monkey do, right? Well, humankind is said to have evolved from monkeys. So we're all a bit in that mindset of just following the leader, doing what others do. And television is one of those areas. We've come to view television in this country as something very important that we need to watch because they're telling truths on television. Well, Hollywood's not about telling you the truth. It's the land of make-believe. It's the land of make-believe in many, many ways. So people flock to this, and they flock to their televisions. And the reason why, and think about this, it's psychology again. It's when you turn the television on, in a way you're letting somebody into your home. And after you, night after night of doing this, and year after year, you become comfortable with that person that you've allowed in. They become a friend. You feel that you can trust what they have to say. That's what has gone on. And as people are trusting the information coming from who they believe is their friend, they really stop worrying about the credibility of that individual, just trusting. So when information comes out that is not honest, the person who's watching probably isn't going to know because they're just trusting. Well, not only that, but oftentimes those watching will follow the example of those they are watching. In news shows, in movies, in television. And so Hollywood definitely sets the trends. So here's says with A-list clients such as Jennifer Aniston, Tom Cruise, Cameron Diaz, Tom Hanks, Vanessa Hudgens, Will Smith, Meryl Streep, Nicole Kidman, Steven Spielberg, Britney Spears, Kanye West, and many, many others, Creative Artist Agencies is well known as Hollywood's leading talent agency, literally dealing with billions of dollars and the most influential people in film, music, television, and sports. CAA is a powerful entity in the entertainment industry. This year, the agency threw one hell of a party during the Sundance Festival, one that managed to even shock the Hollywood crowd that was present. The party featured lingerie-clad women pretending to snort prop cocaine, erotic dancers outfitted with sex toys, and an Alice in Wonderland look-alike performing a simulated sex act on a man in a rabbit costume. According to guests, the party was overtly lewd, pornographic, and debaucherous, and was described as a mashup of Cirque du Soleil and the orgy scene from Stanley Kubrick's Eyes Wide Shut. While all this fake sex drugs is a good indication of the moral standards that are upheld in Hollywood's higher instances, this is surprisingly not the most disturbing fact about the party. The theme and the symbolism of this event, based on a perverted version of Alice in Wonderland plus Eyes Wide Shut type orgy, is nothing less than the celebration of the industry's mind control and sex rituals. As stated in numerous articles, Alice in Wonderland is a staple in mind control programming, where slaves are told to follow the white rabbit and go through the looking glass. Having an Alice look-alike, who is a child, by the way, performing sex acts on the white rabbit is a type of sick perversion. mind control handlers attached to the story. Furthermore, satanic sex rituals a la Eyes Wide Shut are also used on mind control slaves to traumatize them. In short, CAA's party is one big celebration of the Illuminati's entertainment industry, one that is about exploitation, prostitution, drugs, mind control, and rituals. Even if everything there was fake, it was an accurate reflection of what truly happens behind the scenes in Hollywood. And then there's more here, an article. I'm not going to read anymore. You get the idea. It's just a crazy situation, but on a daily basis, if you're not already aware of this, you are being barraged. The kids who turn on television are being barraged with images that are getting into their mind, into their subconscious, whether they like it or not. And ideas are being put forward. That is why we have a society of kids who are interested in the vampires. Because look at the amount of vampire movies that are out there. Look at the dark movies that are out there. There's a lot of craziness that's trying to set a standard and a tone for the young kids, and they're just following right along, just like the adults are following along to other things. Everybody's kind of following along to the tune of some Pied Piper that's out there. And meanwhile, behind the scenes, there's important stuff going on that people are missing because they're caught up in all of these other distractions. We need to get away from the distractions to pay attention. That's where we get into that spiritual battle that I always talk about, that the book of Revelation talks about, that, that's what's going on. All right, let's take 3 minutes here, get 3-minute news. Here we go.
Good morning, folks. We kicked off the day with a 5-pointer off the Oregon coastline, well above average. There was a hailstorm in Malawi yesterday, just more wild weather for this part of Africa. It's been flooding for weeks, and here's a before and after of Mozambique. We had a mass fish die off in some isolated parts of Vietnam, where fishing is life for those locals. Cyclone Philang about to buzz between Reunion and Madagascar. Let's hope that eye wall misses land. Other top news story, literally on my doorstep. This elongated low-pressure system allows tropic, temperate, and Arctic air to have a little social hour atop our heads, and they are a messy bunch. Sun's not up in the U.S. yet, so we'll need your tornado damage reports from last night and today as this thing moves east. I'm at the black marker, so literally, on my doorstep. Dear Sun, what the heck is going on? You can find extended periods in the recent record low solar minimum where the sun was more active than this. Previously stated concerns about a coming ice age weren't unfounded before NASA joined the worry, and now that they have, it's still valid. No flaring, solar shutdown. Our lone chance at changing that lies on the northern hemisphere swinging in, but it's just beta and in need of some development. Looking at SOHO, this dark arm holds the opaque disk blocking the sun, and it's relevant today because our line of sight puts a sun-diving comet just north of it, headed in while we went about our days yesterday. We have been watching that eastern limb as well because of some massive filaments. Folks, I can't believe this one didn't eject yet. The longer it waits, the more Earth-directed the CME could be. Now, in addition to these plasma filaments in that northern active region turning in on the eastern limb, you can see some dark coronal holes. The leader is set to face Earth today nearly square on the equator. These coronal holes are a piece of the earthquake watch, and early February appears to see a few pass our eye. But it's not just coronal holes coming in early February. The planets will play a role as well. While Mercury and Mars heliocentrically conjoin today, that is, they line up as seen from the Sun, I'll flip this around and put Earth back there, zooming out, tilting. You can see Neptune down here, and as I bring us forward into February, you can tell that Mercury and Mars will geocentrically conjoin Neptune, and then, as seen from the Earth, they will conjoin each other. Got a full moon around that same time, conjoining all of them. Here are the planet positions through early March. That strong watch period to kick off February will coincide with those coronal holes I showed earlier. We should see our first uptick in 6 magnitude quakes or higher leading up to the new moon on the 10th, maybe a day or two afterwards. Shots of our star to close out today. Eyes open, no fear, it's 6:15 a.m. Eastern Time, and that's the news. Be safe, everyone.
Okay, very good. Very good indeed. Okay, so one of the things that is important as we go through life is to know who we are. Know thyself, that's one of the old phrases. And on Earth, we have all lived many, many lifetimes. No one is here for their first lifetime. I don't think. I think everybody that's down here has been here for some time. And when we live through life, often we do things, we have mannerisms that we don't always understand, and various thoughts that sometimes come in and out, and we often try to understand more of who we are. And one of the ways of understanding is about understanding our past lives. So, first thing here, this is an article, How to Remember Your Past Lives. If there really is such a thing as reincarnation, why don't we remember our past lives? Well, actually, when you think about it, we don't even remember much of this life, let alone our past lives. Well, why not? To start with, there's the possibility that our forgetfulness is due to a bit of cosmic mercy. Our fragile minds probably couldn't simultaneously process all the memories, the joys, the pains, humiliations, triumphs, confusions, doubts, information, wounds, and so forth connected to this and other lifetimes. We would become overloaded and unbalanced. How could we ever know productivity, happiness, contentment in the here and now if we are constantly besieged by the past? Notwithstanding that some people like to torture themselves and others by bringing up past on a regular basis. A little self-control, please. The memories of the life and of our past lives are all under lock and key for our own protection. We do draw upon them, most often unconsciously, for the purpose of making correlations and comparisons as we progress along through life. And though past lives are definitely influencing us without trying to recall them, do you have any irrational fear of spiders, an almost instant dislike for a new co-worker, a love of all things nature, Native American? Yes, well, as you sit there reading, you are the sum total of everything you have always been. Awesome, huh? So, this is a good article. Goes into some more information here. But what I want to do is let's look at this. It says, what do you want to do? Examine your belief system. Get a past life journal. And then it says you record all bits and pieces that you begin to uncover about reincarnation in your past lives. Make a list and connect the dots. Activate your dream state. So this is one of the easiest things you can do. Before you go to sleep at night, ask to see glimpses of your past lives. Keep your notebook close at hand to scribble down anything that you may see in your dreams. It may take a few nights to prime the pump, but it will happen if you don't flag in your attention to it each evening before sleep. Alright, so there's some good things to do. Just watch where you put your attention. Learn to really look and see. Okay, so all good important things, clues to who we are. And from there, this is a past life regression therapist. Her name is Betty Binder, and very good. And I've gotten to know Betty through various organizations and conferences and expos, and I've heard her speak a number of times. And anyway, this is a short 3.5-minute piece. Get a chance to hear who she is, what she's about, and how she works. Here we go.
This is Betty Binder, and you're about to see a video about past life regression, how to recall your past lives, and how to use that knowledge now. I began doing this work in 1980 after I had spontaneous memories of one of my own past lives in the 1700s as a Native American, a Comanche female Indian, in the southwestern United States. Prior to that time, I had no interest in and no involvement in this field. But in late 1979, I met somebody I now know I knew in another lifetime, and that was the most immediate trigger, although there had been some earlier ones, to bring past life memories to me consciously. And over a 2-week period early in 1980, I had such detailed memories that I was actually able to go to the Los Angeles Public Library and do a research project. I found that the information I had gotten spontaneously was historically accurate, and that's how I got started. I have done over 3,600 past life regressions with individuals. I've taught well over 18,000 people in various workshops and seminars in which past life recall took a part. I've written several books, created many audio tapes, and now we have a videotape for you to see on how to access your own past life memories in this lifetime. People often ask the difference in application between group and individual regression. The method on this tape is intended to be used either in a group or individually for self-access to past life memories. When I work with an individual one-on-one, I can get feedback from them, and that method is longer because the person is talking with me and I'm talking with them. So in essence, the difference between group and individual is, in a group, I can only get feedback after the regression is done. During an individual session, I'm talking and they're talking throughout the whole process, and I can help them integrate while the regression is going on. There's some other questions that people ask. Probably the most pertinent one is, what can I find out from doing a regression, and what's the relevance of doing past life regression? Why should I do it? You can actually access anything you want. It's an altered state of consciousness. It's just another tool in the toolkit, like any other meditative state. And you can use it for a variety of purposes. You can use it to find out when you've known someone before. You can use it to find out anything that's of curiosity, like where you've lived before, or why you're interested in a particular part of the world, or to find out abilities that you've had before that you'd like to enhance now.
So there you go. So the more you know about yourself, the better off it will be. The better that you can be in charge of your own psychology, and rather than have somebody push your buttons. And the more people that are really in touch with themselves and understand who they're about and what they're about, the better off it's all going to be for everyone. Okay? Nobody needs to have their buttons pushed. Nobody needs to be controlled by others. That's very selfish, don't you think? We need to leave those selfish individuals on their own to do as they will, because people don't want to be controlled. People want to live their lives free and happy, right? Right. Okay, let's close things off with our meditation for today. Let's go ahead and close your eyes. Take a deep breath. Exhale. Take a deep breath. Exhale. I want you to imagine yourself walking along the shore, walking along the beach, and the waves are moving back and forth. And as you hear the sound of the waves crashing against the shore, you feel very relaxed. And as you continue walking, you approach a cave. And you enter the cave. And you walk further and further. And as you walk into the cave, past the point where the light shines, you find a mirror. And you sit in front of the mirror and you look into it. And as you look into the mirror, the question, "Who am I?" comes to mind. and you look into that mirror, and images reflect back at you. Images that you may not recognize at first, but that somehow feel comfortable, familiar. And as you continue to look and see the reflection shining back at you, you begin to recall some of the past lives that you have lived upon this planet. You understand that there have been many lives, and though it is not important for you to know all the details of all of these lives, it is important to understand the lessons that were learned in those lifetimes. And so you allow your unconscious to bring forward and reflect back to you those highlights, those lessons you need to know. And if you don't remember them at this moment, that's okay. For the memories will continue to surface now that we've asked the question. So we get up and you turn to leave the cave. And as you are walking out of the cave, you see a chest. You didn't see that chest there before, but now that you've taken a chance at looking in the mirror to see more of who you are, this chest has appeared. So you open it, and inside you find a medallion. And you take this medallion and you put this on. And as you do, you feel this glow across your body. And the medallion turns into light and merges with your energy field. And as you walk out of the cave, you realize that this is a gift from Spirit. As you continue your journey along, and as you have expressed your desire to know more, and in this awareness you know that the universe always provides the protections we need to travel through life. And these protections allow us to feel safe no matter where we go or what we do. And as we exit the cave back out into the sunlight there on the beach, we hear the waves crashing against the shore, and they bring us back to the moment on the count of 3. 3, coming back to the present moment filled with confidence. 2, coming back to the present moment filled with faith. And 1, coming back to the present moment happy, healthy, and whole. Happy, healthy, and whole. Alright, there you have it. That's it, my friends. Thank you very much. Have an awesome day. I'll be back tomorrow with more news and information. Till then, be safe. Peace. I'm out of here.